Today we are looking into the possibility of Mimic Island. You heard me right, an island dedicated to Mimic. And could this be any more meme-filled? I guess we're gonna find out right now. So Mimic Island, we are talking about Mimic Island being a full-on natural island. Out of anything, this is likely to be called Natural Island, but in the community at large, we have been calling it Mimic Island for that long, I can't call it anything else at this point. Now, this island, it would have all 30 original natural monsters and Mimic, of course. All of these natural monsters would come back and rejoice in a really wonderful form, which we've not really seen much of them, to be honest, in quite a while, the natural monsters, so this would be quite a grand reunion. Now, why am I going on about Mimic Island, though, today? Mimic Island, it has been speculated to be coming along by fans, since we didn't know where Mimic was going to go to before Fire Oasis Mimic. Even before then, everyone was saying Mimic Island could end up being a thing, specifically as well, because Mimic didn't contain the fire element, and it was quite hard to work out which island Mimic could go to. But even ever since Fire Oasis, fans have still been talking about this Mimic Island, and it's got to the point where now I feel like I need to approach this subject, especially with recent teasers perhaps hinting that this could be coming. Specifically, let's go on over to Monster Handler Matt for a second here to see what they have to say about it.
Is this the only time that Mimic will appear in My Singing Monsters? We've got Mimic in here now in this particular form. Now let's see where else it may crop up in the future.
So yeah, they're saying Mimic is going to return. Is it Mimic Island? Is it somewhere else? I don't know. But based on teasers we are going to be delving into later, it looks like this could be an actual possibility and real soon. So I do want to go look at it today. Now, Mimic Island, should this be the island where Mimic returns? This is the hot topic that we've got to debate today. Now, the main point that I see across the community at large, and something I strongly agree with, honestly, is the fact that all of these natural monsters, they have already rejoiced with one another. And I've said this many times in previous theories related to Mimic as well. Mimic Island, it ain't a good idea, honey, because we've got Gold Island, we've got Tribal Island, we've got all the natural islands. We don't need another natural island. It's not worth the time, Mimic. We've seen it before. They appear on most islands already, these naturals. We've seen a lot of them, and most importantly, I feel like we want new features. We want uniqueness inside of the game, innovation and new monsters, and this isn't really going to deliver on that aspect. So mostly the reasons why I see this being done at all, Mimic Island, is scraping at the bottom of the barrel, seeing what we can do with these classes that we already have existing inside of the game. But right now I feel like we need new classes more than any time inside of the game's history. So I feel like all of these ideas coalesce to present themselves as Mimic Island not really being the most keen-eyed thing amongst fans at the moment. But why should Mimic Island come then? Let's go on to. Now, this would mean the grand return of all 31 natural monsters. And if this truly is to be called Natural Island, let's put that into perspective here for a second. Natural Island. They are the mascots behind the game, these natural monsters, and we have not seen them for ages. So of course, they're gonna want to bring them back again. We've not seen them in that long, and they're supposed to be the mascots behind the franchise, so I know I would be edging my bets towards these coming if I were there. We've not seen them in any recent updates, and ultimately, I think the thing that we come back to with Natural Island, and whether this could be a thing, is what My Singing Monsters always loves to do. The community at large, you might put all of these facts together, but all in all, the community is ultimately what also makes up the game, and lots of people are putting this forward that this should be an island in the future. And what does My Singing Monsters always listen to? Like with Workshop, like with Nexus, like with the seasonal Shanzi, that they always listen to the fans, man. And if the fans are saying they want Mimic Island, what is going to come? Mimic Island. So should they do it with all of this in mind? Well, I think many fans are going to agree with the fact that they would prefer a different island. We have loads of ideas on the bandwagon, loads of classes we can delve into, and different ideas that they could do instead of this. And when I see a new island come in, we gotta make every single one count, bro, okay? We can't just have them spreading out here and everywhere and doing every single island in the book. Everyone has to count in a very unique way. And when I see all of these fan perspectives as well behind Mimic Island, I find myself going back to before Mythical Island. Before Mythical Island came, I actually found myself debating whether this would be a great island, whether this was a good idea. For exactly the same reasons. I thought we've had a teleportation island. The mythicals coming together, it just doesn't make sense right now. It turned out, therefore, actually, after that, to be my favorite island in the game. So I feel like that has ultimately changed my perspective as well on what Mimic Island could be. Even though I don't see it as being maybe the best thing for the game, I think it could end up being awesome. The thing that this proved to me is anything can be extraordinary. Any kind of island idea, as long as you innovate upon it and make sure that it is awesome in the grand run. Ultimately, what debates whether Mimic Island could be a good thing is how it's done. And this is where the true fun arises for me, okay? So let's go into Mimic Island's mechanics now. Now, Mimic Island, this is where I think this is the extraordinariness behind the island. Because Mimic Island ultimately would be another natural island, even coalescing potentially the name Natural Island, having that as its name, I think that this island is going to go back to the basics. Oh, my lovely breeding. I've missed you so much. I'm fed up at the zapping and the teleporting. I just want to go back to the basics. Mythical Island was the last one to include breeding, and that was so long ago. This ultimately, guys, is a big deal, okay? We've had so many hard islands. Having one at the very beginning of the game, this ultimately is a natural island. It is going to come after Earth Island, I think, if it was to come back. And ultimately having breeding again, it's going to ultimately reopen the hype towards the game. I think they've been putting a lot of barriers around all the new content lately. Rare Woblins, Adult Celestials, there's been a lot going against it, but now having this suddenly come out in the open and have breedable monsters once again, it's going to bring a lot of people back into the game too. I mean, you are going to have a natural island either have zapping and whatnot, like to maybe what Amber Island did when we've already got Elder Celestials coming with Elder Scaritar soon, and we've also got the fact that this is going to be a natural island. It's got to follow suit. We are going to have breeding. It's the chef's kiss. Pout, baby. This is the way to go, okay? We need something easier, and honestly, maybe Mimic Island can be the one to deliver on that now, though. If we're talking about Mimic Island, how is it going to deliver on this element of prestige that I'm saying that this island needs to deliver, baby, so that it can be awesome? Because ultimately, we need to make sure that this feels like it is a worthwhile island to add into the game. And now going back, therefore, to Mimic. Mimic has to be special on this island. They are ultimately what the entire island is going to be about, and therefore, they need to carry this island through. And now I actually think this might be quite demanding of you, quite honestly, Mimic, because Mimic is not really got the Quint prowess, if you know what I mean. It's a goofy, fan-loved monster. It's not necessarily contributing as much as what the other Quints do. It's goofy, the most outrageous Quint. Honestly, it's got a lot going against it. There's lots of things going for Mimic as well, because if it is done right, I think it could be really awesome. All of the Quints in my mind have had the chance to shine, and this time it is Mimic's chance to pick up that microphone and take the lead. Bowhead, Renovated, Psychic, Dromedary, Lie, all of the Quints, they've done absolute wonders for songs. Candelabra, Space Island, the list goes on. But now it's Mimic's turn. Mimic's not had that chance in the spotlight. Really, Consonant is the best one in my opinion. I think we need that moment for Mimic to shine, and how do you do that? Well, I think going back to Mimic's lore is the most important thing here. In trailers, Mimic is shown, and inside of its bio, this is referenced to, that it can transform into other monsters. It literally turns into the forms of monsters themselves. So I was thinking, how cool would it be on this island if Mimic took a Gold Island Epic Walks transformation-esque style on this island and transformed into different monsters? And the way that it could be represented through each monster as well is some of the elements from its initial design, which we all know and love with that goofy fan look, could be reserved on the monsters that it turns into. So if you have Pom Pom, maybe its bottom half could be Mimic's legs. If you have Mammoth, the feathers could be at the back. There are countless ideas to make this the funny most thing on the island. Mimic would just be worth it because I need to see these weird fusions desperately. And as well with this, we could also have Mimic finally come along and mimic monsters that are instrumentalist monsters. We've seen the vocalist ones with Wog and then Bicinerus. Now, I want to see some instrumentalist action. We could have Reedlane, Pango, all of the naturals. Just do them all, baby. Ultimately as well on this island, I think Mimic would need a lot of tracks to ensure that we can see maybe all of these transformations come forward if it was to happen, because otherwise, again, we need to provide that unique factor, make me feel like this island is worthwhile. And then for the song behind this, now we are quite lucky behind the song, mind you, because The natural monsters, in my opinion, are the class that really make up the foundations behind the song. The monster handlers, they knew when they were creating this class that this was going to be reused, these monsters across multiple islands, so the instruments themselves are the most foundation instruments that you would need to build a song in general, which makes these very easily adaptable to a Mimic Island, regardless of the theme that we are going to choose here. I mean, for example, if you go to Gold Island, that is literally the end of the world. Then you go to Tribal Island and it's yay! So these monsters can do anything, okay? And this is especially important because this island, it needs to be a maze. This needs to be exceptional, this island song, to carry the island forward, which is the main aspect that we are really getting into inside of this video. And when we're talking about the song, with it being natural island, people are automatically, if I was the one creating the song, going to be thinking about a more ambient take behind the island song. And I actually want to debate against this today. Even though it is a natural island, I feel like we need to justify its existence, and this goes for the island design as well. We need to justify its existence by captivating on really unique and whimsical elements to uplift it and make it feel worthwhile again, going back to that. Rather than it having forests, for example, let's have it feel transcendent, whimsical, a little bit on the magical side, but not too much. And of course, bring back the amazing voice actors, Dave Kerr and Maggie too. Bring them all back, have them voice the naturals, please. I don't want Amber Island. Thank you. Next. We can skip out on that this time. And for the island design behind this, when I go back to this island, I get the feeling, yes, they are going to go back to the forest. It's unavoidable, but we need to have it feel transcendent, prestigious. This is the natural island's conclusion, if you will. We need to have it have that feeling. And when I think about this natural island, I just can't get it out of my head. I've seen Nova's prediction. I've seen Riles' prediction. They have the same idea as well. It just seems like this island suits this idea really well, but it being held up in the air in some form, this island, and being a forest that you'd see in fantasy animations and things like that. Huge island basically up in the air. That was what I think this island is going to end up being. A little bit like to Air Island in that regard, but also I feel like it could have Mimic elements all scattered around. It seems as though this is going to be very Mimic themed. Huge tree at the back, unavoidable. We need to have that. Tributes towards all the natural islands as well, I think would be quite important with this. It's a new natural island, and having this feel like that grand conclusion is quite important. So delivering on that with earthen elements to match Earth Island's atmosphere, being up in the air, Air Island, balloons, clouds, Water Island having underwater elements, all merging together. These islands, they are so nostalgic, and I feel like I want them all to be embraced, all of these elements all throughout the island in really unique ways. The settings behind the 5 natural islands are honestly so awesome. I mean, come on, underwater, earthen, transforming that and fusing them all together into this final island would be a really awesome take. Huge waterfalls too up in the air that make me feel the prestige, my final natural island. And even tying back the song towards the natural islands too, I think is quite important here. We have such nostalgia towards these songs, integrating some sounds like with Furcon and Dandidoo, Firehaven and Earth Island. Those similar sounds would be really awesome with this too, to have that nostalgic take that I think this island could need. And with this, I actually want to throw up the Furcon's Jelly Dreams concept. I don't know why, but for this island in particular, I think it would be really awesome if they threw back to the initial idea they had behind a day-to-night cycle. I think it was in a Rare Octopus teaser, they threw up a nighttime plant island, and I don't know why, but natural island, it feels like that would be an awesome time to pull that back in. And they've even had concept art before for all of the natural islands having a day-to-night cycle in Furcon's Jelly Dreams. So how cool would it be to throw that in? Or maybe even seasons, spring, autumn, winter, summer, give it me. I think that would actually suit it the most. But anyway, let's go on over to Riles' design. Riles here has made a Mimic Island design. Thank you, Riles. Thank you. This one they've had up in the air. Of course, Riles, we can't have this without, okay? Rather than a much more fantastical, whimsical take, which I was talking about, they've embraced more fantasy here, it feels like, up in the air, really embracing the forest atmosphere. I love the merging with the clouds at the back and making this have that element of prestige once more. I want to know what the critter is inside of the woods at the side. This castle is really awesome in the middle too. I really hope they could do something like that. Instead of having a huge tree there, making the castle a tree. Yes, please. Really awesome. I'm so excited as well, specifically looking at the lower section of this island. Maybe it could end up having a new Colossal. I think this absolutely needs a new Colossal. It has been a long time and I need a new one, okay? So hopefully that this one does too. I love the embracing of Mimic across the eyes too. It's very minimal, and I like the aspect towards it, because I feel like you can either overdo it or do it in the way which Riles has done here, and it's honestly the best regard, I think, to not overdo it this time. And also, I want to throw up the designs that Riles has made for Mimic across all of the islands. Initially, inside of my theory, I was saying maybe it could come to all of the natural islands, and based on this idea, Riles put together all of these different elemental Mimic designs. Now we know what Mimic looks like, but it is going to have transformations, and this is the closest that I could find, okay? So this is the plant elemental design. We've got leaves across it. Very cool. Going on to the next one then. This cold one looks absolutely amazing. This is my favorite one, I think. It's got some cold glistens across it, really affecting the eyes and the feathers and the hands with these designs. And then going on to Air Island, the goggles. Zephyr is loving this, man. Got an actual motto student right here. Wow, car. Then we've got Water Island, Purple Belly, much more of a minimal design, this one. Then go to Earth, and this is the most out there one. We have some volcanic textures amongst its belly and hair, and even its wings are glowing up. Wow. Well, if that doesn't scream, this is the fans' favorite natural island, I don't know what does anymore. And then as well, going over now onto the teasers that we have. On the Summer Song trailer recently, we had a Fire Oasis poster at the end of the trailer revealed. And then we saw Hula putting on a little QR code here, which is quite important for our theories. And then Hula walks past, wondering if that might be Hula or Mimic, just saying. To be decided, let's see. But anyway, in this ominous teaser, if you scan the QR code, it leads to a Fire Oasis Festival website. And this reveals this Wednesday, we are going to be having, I think, an update. This is particularly interesting because we didn't really see much of an update in Summer Song this year. Only thing we really got was Ooh Giddy. And let's be real, maybe that arrived a bit earlier to make us stray away from the true final ethereal workshop monster, which isn't in any way going to be revealed in a certain contest for ethereal workshop. Anyway, moving on. When we scan this QR code, it leads to a website that has 31 performers, and it is coming on the 31st this week on Wednesday. And how many monsters does Mimic Island have? 31! Oh, and also let's throw in this in there. What island is Mimic on? Fire Oasis. What is this festival for? Fire Oasis. So maybe, besides the theories that we were making for Rare Robux on Fire Oasis, maybe if that is to come as well alongside Elder Scaritar this week, we could also see Mimic Island. Now, I don't know if Rare Robux is actually still coming. I'm still obsessed with the Robux. I can't get over I'm wrong about that. But still, I feel like as well, if we go on over to the game, this is also further consolidated that this could be an actual reality thing coming this week. As also, we have this 5 phases sale, which represents each of the core 5 elements, and then Rebro at the bottom, for some reason. Yeah, for these 5 phases, this could be referencing that Mimic Island is coming. Might be quite out there theory, this one, but either way, we'll see. Now, I genuinely don't think Mimic Island is going to come, but I feel like the teasers and the 31, particularly with them also having a fascination with that, with Nexus and everything for that being out on the 18th, and then leveling up to 18 and going over that, it is too uncanny, okay? The teasers here, the 31 Mimic there, it just adds up, and everyone has been on about this to the point where I'm starting to believe this. I guess we'll see. But tell me what you think down below about Mimic Islanders. I think this is quite an oddball one, and also make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. I will see you later for now. Pout pout.